much.
Welcome especially to those of you who are watching this on our recorded version on YouTube. And just to remind everyone that all our talks, with our speakers' permission, of course, go on our YouTube channel. So if you do miss one and want to see one again, then you can always do that. Travel Talks Leicester on YouTube. Okay, over to you, Ruth.
Thank you very much. Okay, so hello everybody. Before I start, I just want to say thank you to Tricia and Peter for organising this.
Okay.
So yeah, just to start with, I'm putting a screensaver on because I had this holiday in 2015 and it was so amazing. I just discovered this part of the country, this corner that I'd never been to up in the northeast, and I was blown away by it. And we were absolutely blessed by fantastic weather, clear skies, and I'll rant and rave a little bit more about it later, but that just gives you a sort of feeling to start with. So this is a bike tour that I did up in the north of England, and it went into Scotland. So we started off in Newcastle, at Newcastle Station, and over 4 days we cycled to Edinburgh. So it was quite an adventure, and it's part of a series of adventures I've been doing with groups of women for a few years now. So starting at Newcastle railway station, it's called Coast and Castle South. I've got a map here. Yeah.
I thought you can play in the afternoons now, you tell me.
I do play
Okay.
Friday afternoons, just that one.
Oh, I didn't know you played Friday afternoons.
Well, I said this to you, I only play Friday afternoon.
Anyway, don't forget, I want some flowers for here.
Yes.
Pete,
Yeah.
could you mute everybody?
Who was it? I don't know. Yeah, sorry. So I've got a map for Coast and Castle South. You can get a map for it. There are Sustrans trails, so I use the map rather than any other way. But you can also follow the blue and white signs. So this is a 4-day cycle ride, and it goes all the way up the coast, and then you can either go inland to Earlston and over the top of a hill to Edinburgh, or you can continue along the coastline. So it's stopping in Alnwick, Berwick, Earlston, Edinburgh. We did this on mountain bikes or hybrid bikes. You can do it on a road bike if you like, but it's a little bit rough in places, and I'll talk about that later. So if you're a beginner, you might want to do it Newcastle to Berwick in 3 days. That would be 55 miles a day. 33 miles a day. So this is us meeting up with the ladies in Newcastle. I'm in the middle there checking my bike. The ladies in this picture from all over the country. If you can see the whole screen, which I can't, I'm just going to swap that over. This lady on the side here with the Leicester women's Velo kit is Susan Durham of Leicester. Susan, if you're there, say hello in the comments at some point, hopefully. We started this tour organised by Susan at Newcastle railway station, and we were really blessed with great weather. So very giddy on the first day, always very excited. It helps that there's fabulous weather, so we've got a brilliant day for it there, and we're just sort of enjoying getting ready and meeting up again on the time. Nice place. Mileage that we normally do varies. That's Susan and Denise. I'm always hoping it's going to be something like moderate, which would be 20 to 45 miles, but we always end up doing something more like number 5, which is challenging, which is 50 miles. So 50 miles is quite a big push. It's 200 miles, the Coast and Castle, so we did 4 lots of 50-mile days. Like I said before, I was absolutely amazed by how beautiful it is. The first half of the ride, you just get the sea to the side of you and the beaches stretching endlessly the whole way along. So that's absolutely beautiful. If you're lucky, you'll get great weather. If you're unlucky, it could be fairly wild and cold from the North Sea. But you know, it's a quiet corner of the world, or it was before lockdown. I'm not sure about now. I like it, you know, there's no air pollution at all, very, very friendly people, and fabulous cafes. So here we are stopping for the first of many snacks at the cafe. and just can't believe really how beautiful it is. So there's Susan. Susan and Joanne at one of the cafes, I think that's in Longsides near Whitley Bay. Really great sort of cafe culture out there, loads and loads of space on the beaches, really lovely place to go. So next, the next day, so the first day we cycled from Newcastle all the way up to Alnwick, which is a lovely town with a castle. There's Alnwick Castle Gardens and lots of things to see. We've got bookshops and all sorts of things that we didn't get around to. We stayed at the youth hostel there. It's pretty good. It's good for small groups and set up for cycle riders. You've got lots of spaces to store your bike in the back of the sheds. You don't have to stagger very far. And the next morning, the second day, it was Susan's birthday. So obviously part of the tour was to celebrate Susan's birthday. Denise here on the left has got Susan a cake, which of course we all had to eat and carry with us. So that was brilliant. And a really a lovely thing to do. It's always a special day on Susan's birthday because you know, if we're on a cycle tour, that's pretty cool. So the great thing about this ride, as opposed to going to France and camping, is that there's hardly anything to carry. So I got my dad's pannier there on the back. It's a lightweight pannier, just goes over the rack. And then in there I've got a 1 or 2 spare changes of clothes, because you do tend to get a bit smelly, a toothbrush, and then I'm carrying little bits of water. I don't need anything like a tent or a sleeping mat or a bag. I don't even need much food, because it's very easy to do this ride and you pick food up along the way. So all you really need is your credit card. So I think it's one of the few times I've done kind of just kind of credit card tour, if you like. Usually I've got all this gear on the back, so it's much heavier. So this next picture, if you just look at the bike here, how light it is. This next picture is my bike with full camping kit, and I call this picture deux chevaux because it's like my bike's powered by 2 horses, because I'm carrying so much stuff. But obviously I wasn't powered by 2 horses. I just had the own power in my legs, and I found it really hard. I'll just have a look at the messages here. Maybe not, no. Okay, so yeah, this is quite a lot of gear. It's too much gear really. In the back, loads of spare clothes, also a tent. In front, like loads of food, all sorts of rubbish. The day after I took this photograph, I actually changed what I was doing, and I got rid of the first 2 panniers on the front. I threw them away, threw them in the bin actually. It seems like a bit of a waste, but that's what I did. And I felt much better for it, and I pumped up my tyres and all that kind of thing, and it helps to not have so much weight on the bike. So back to Kirsten Castles, and cycling on the second day, starting to get tired and dreaming about cake and coffee, which is the whole point of cycle touring. When I saw this beauty on a hill looming over the horizon, like something out of Harry Potter. It is a beautiful castle. It came up quite soon as well. It's quite a lovely flat ride, so seeing this in the distance was a good indicator that we were making quite good progress. So here it is, Bamburgh Castle, for those of us who need a close-up. I didn't go there to test my eyesight. I went there because it's on the route, and it's a really lovely place. Apparently it is inhabited by the Duke of Northumberland. He lives in a chamber somewhere, but you can also go inside. There are all sorts of things on at the castle if you're interested. and I think he's quite an eccentric character from what I've heard. I don't really know very much because we never get to stop and look inside on these tours. So Bamburgh Castle, we stopped there. Obviously the whole point of stopping is to refuel. So on the right, the picture is us looking a bit sort of like, I don't know, confused, talking about what we're going to do, talking about where we're going to go for food. And then obviously the girls have had some food on the left because they look very happy. And that's generally the way it goes. We fumble around until we get somewhere where we can refuel, and then we go on our way again. So here we are in a cafe, extremely happy. Sometimes we get stuck in a cafe, we might have one cup of tea and a cake, and then we might need to have another one. So it's all good fun. And there's Susan again from Leicester Women's Velo. We've got Nikki Woods, she's up in Scotland. And then Joanne's up in Lancaster, I'm in Derbyshire, and Pamela is down in Gloucestershire. So we've come from all over the place. Next picture is from when I went back to Bamburgh. When we're on cycle tours, we don't really get to stop and see anything. So I went back afterwards and I saw this, so I really like that. Going into the dunes, sort of hunker down in the dunes and just watch the clouds go by. The people playing cricket on the beach, people walking dogs on the beach. Got loads of space, you don't have to bump into other people. Really lovely. It can be quite blowy and quite windy, but it's a really lovely place to be, and just expanses of beach like we saw in the first shot there. So that's Bamburgh. And Bamburgh Castle itself, obviously, if it was raining, I'm sure you could go inside. I also went back to Alnwick Gardens, which is a huge, beautiful gardens, all landscape, immaculate. There's a kind of theme of water displays, so there's an awful lot of water fountains and rivers and trellises and mazes and all sorts of things you can have a look around. Lovely day out. Back on a cycle ride, we headed up north from Bamburgh Castle to Holy Island. Holy Island's a bit of a sanctuary set up, I don't know, in the 700s by some monk or other. Obviously a place for retreat, and it's extremely isolated. It's only accessible twice a day when the tide is out. And I went out to Holy Island to look at the timetable, and I cycled out, and it was really hard work. The wind blowing in my face. It felt really kind of isolated, really kind of end of the worldy, really quiet. You know, your place where you've got no one around you really. So went out there for a bit. Had a bit of a lunch in the dunes and turned back again. I didn't go to see where the monks lived. I think there's some quite a nice, not nice, but interesting and isolated places where you can visit, where the monks obviously sit in contemplation, and you get the idea of how it might be to be out there. So that's Holy Island, but it's a detour. If you can see on the map on the left, Holy Island is that blob along from the causeway, and you can only go at certain times. The route itself is in yellow, and you get some flavour here of how the route is. It's cross country, it's on little roads, it changes direction quite a lot, and you have to be kind of aware. As you can see here, just after you go over the railway line at Beale, go out towards the headland, you're actually on farmland, just grass, and cycling over a field with sheep in it. So it can be quite wild, and you need a mountain bike. So the picture there is just a picture before we turned away from the sea. And we went back again. Whoops, flicking away. Second night we spent in Berwick Youth Hostel, which is really lovely building right in the centre of Berwick. Berwick's a kind of fishing village, and it's got lots of other industries, I know, but it's all sort of huddled together. And it's a really, really beautiful place. We stayed in this youth hostel. It was a converted building warehouse by the quayside. They had a really sort of funky canteen where they made hot food, and it was really comfortable. It was pretty cool. So Berwick itself was beautiful and worth the trip, I'm sure. Lovely coastline there. So at Berwick, you got a choice. That's after night 2 of whether you continue around the coast and the coast castles and do the beaches. We've already seen quite a lot of beaches by then. You've seen 100 miles of beaches, or you go inland. And we decided to go inland when we went travelling. So we went inland to Scotland. As soon as you get towards Scotland, they welcome you. Lots of signs everywhere. You could go to Coldstream, where you can see the Coldstream Guards in uniform. And on from Coldstream is Kelso, which is a sort of market town with a market square, lots of cafes, and a really lovely place to stop in independent little cafes for whatever you want to eat. So I ordered a sandwich and salad, started out healthy, and then ended up eating like millionaire shortbread and stuff like that. So just on from there, we stayed in a B&B at Ilston, which was good, and put our bikes in the back of the place. Scotland's just beautiful in May, really stunning. Everywhere you look is just farming landscapes. A lot of it was farmland with animals, beautiful horses, lots of valleys and things up on the hill, landmarks on the hills. We did a big climb near Ilston, up these hills, up 3.5 miles of climbing, I think. So that was quite tough, and but worth it. And here we are at the top. Always happy. So yeah, this was the sort of 3rd or 4th day. We climbed up a mountain, and there we are at the top. One of the things about cycling is eating enough. The following day, even though I'd done okay for 3 days, the following day I ran out of energy. So sometimes you might need a rest after 2 or 3 days of cycling, and I think probably needed a break then, but I had 1 more day left. As the cycle trip goes on, you tend to take less and less photographs. So even though I got quite a lot of photographs on the first couple of days, on the last couple of days I haven't got very many photographs, because I think, again, when you get tired, you kind of stopping to get your camera out, and there's not so much to show for that. So next one, okay, that's kind of the end of the Coast and Castles. The last place we went to after that was Innerleithen, which is a little town nestling in the hills south of Edinburgh, and from Innerleithen there's another big climb over to Edinburgh. At Edinburgh, I went to a live music venue. I was thinking about going for a tour on a boat. There was a royal yacht. I don't know if it was Britannia or another big ship in the harbour, but I didn't get there. Obviously there's absolutely loads to do in Edinburgh. We stayed in a funny old manor house near Edinburgh, and it was quite interesting. Obviously the Lord and Lady in the manor didn't really want to do B&B, but they did, and it was a bit of an insight into their life. So that's kind of kind of coast and castles south. As I said, they've got the map here, which you would buy if you wanted to do it. Might take you a week or so. That's one little tour, 4 days to a week. So the next slide is something else, but it's sort of related to what I do. One of the things that got me started cycling was the group called Breeze, and through Breeze, which is part of British Cycling, it's cycling just for women really, and people who are getting started, including maybe older people who haven't been on a bike for a long time and they want to get fit. The thing that got me into cycling was Breeze, and through Breeze I got onto something called a French adventure a few years ago, organised by a lady called Indigo Kelly Forrest, and that's when I started cycle touring. And Indigo Kelly Forrest and Susan Dorham and a load of other ladies got together to organise little cycling holidays, and when I got divorced I went on one. And I've just recently written a little book alongside 12 other women about our experiences. So just before we go to break, I'll tell you a little bit about the book. This picture here is from France. You know the picture with the 2 horses that I showed you earlier and all the luggage? Well, the next day, this is the same bike. The next day, I threw away all that stuff on the front, and I threw away a load of my stuff and ended up with this. But this is in the Loire, from one of the cycle rides that we've done. And in the book I've written about different cycle rides that different women have done, and their different attitudes to how they get on a bike, how they make themselves cycle, how they sort of like discipline themselves, and what it's helped them with. So it's a sort of celebration of what a bike can do for a woman, any woman or any man or anybody. And it's for people who haven't necessarily got on bikes yet, but they would like the idea of it. It's not about elite cycling. So in this book, alongside some ideas for getting started, I've got 12 little stories about women who have been on bike rides, and some of them do a lot, like Susan. Some of them, like me, only just get on their bike once a blue moon, but they enjoy it when they do. And in the book we're hoping to sort of share and celebrate our stories about what we've learned. A lot of us haven't started out being particularly fit, and we've had a range of health problems like arthritis and brain injury and stuff like that, excess weight, diabetes, heart problems, fatigue, thyroid problems. And some of us have ridden when we've had a difficult time, like I did after I got divorced. Some of us have fallen off our bikes and got back on them, and it's just a bit of fun, really. That's what the book is. So we've got a couple of minutes now. If I go back to the wider view, I can talk about the second tour. Would that be all right, Tricia, to start on the second tour?
We can do, or we can. There's 1 or 2 comments.
Shall I go through the comments about the coast and castles?
Someone asked about who arranged the accommodation. Did you do?
Yeah.
Did you do all that? Or
Susan Durham, if she's there.
Right, and Susan's here today, isn't she?
Susan, would you like to talk about that for me for a minute or two?
Oh, okay. So normally with a lot of these tours, I'll say where I'm staying, and I think a lot of times then I let everybody else sort out their accommodation. Sometimes I would book book the accommodation, but a lot of times it was easier just to say we're staying in Alnwick or we're staying in Berwick. Like with the youth hostels, I remember I'd managed to get a good deal, so everybody stayed there. But I think sometimes it's better to let other people sort out their own stuff as well, because then it's not the whole headache of people not being too happy with where they're staying. So like with planning the tour, it was more just breaking it up into, as you were saying, 4 days, and breaking it up like that, really. So that's me done.
Great, thank you.
Susan, we can't see you.
I know.
You're hiding.
And then, yeah, and there's a question, who designed the route? I mean, I guess this is an established route, isn't it, that you're following?
Yeah, it's an established route. It's designed by Sustrans, which means Sustainable Transport for England. It's mostly cycling orientated. The maps are really, really close focus, so it literally is, you can see which field you're on. And the whole route is signed with big blue and white signs saying Sustrans. You follow the route number 1 and route number 68. So I don't use any apps. I don't use Strava. I don't use a Garmin. I just use a map and looking up. I like to look up. And if I want to ride with other people, I don't have to even worry about that. So sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Are there any other questions about Coast and Castles?
Yeah, there's a question about the book. Where can we get hold of that book, Ruth?
I just bought the ISBN numbers this morning, so it's a whole new learning curve for me. I've got it all on my computer, and I'm in the process of putting it onto an ebook. So it's really not out yet, and it's been written. And all the ladies, it's been really lovely in lockdown, because I've used Zoom to talk to these ladies in lockdown. So there's 12 stories, including mine. So I've talked to 11 ladies, including Susan. Susan's stories in there, and Indigo Kelly Forrest, and lots of other ladies, Janet Steele, lots of other ladies. So in lockdown, we worked on this together. And then from the Zoom chats we've had, I've written up their stories, and then the stories are going to go in the book. So it'll be coming hopefully in September. But if it's okay with you, Patricia, I'll share a link when it's done.
That would be brilliant. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, because what we want it to be is just sort of ordinary people's voices about travel, but also about, you know, the sort of mental battle of making yourself do something, making yourself go somewhere, and you know, feeling safe about it and feeling confident about what you're doing.
Brilliant, very inspiring. Thank you.
Good.
Okay.
Lovely. So,
do you want to make a start on your next bit then?
I'll do
see how
a
many.
introduction. Yeah. So
how many minutes have we got?
I'll just do 1 or 2 minutes, shall I? Just do 1 minute on it.
All right, give us a taster. Yeah,
I mean, I ride anywhere that's off-road, and I'm not really a hardcore cyclist like Susan. I'll just do a few safe, lovely routes. What I tend to do every spring is I go up to the coast on the east, and I just drive up the motorway, because I'm near the M1, drive up the motorway near York, drop the car for the night, and just go for 1 day over the weekend and 1 night to Bridlington through the Wolds. So the second story really is about my little kind of warm-up and practice ride that I like to do every spring, which is just out to the Wolds. It's part of the Way of the Roses. I got the map for this, but I've never done it, which goes all the way across the country from Morecambe Bay in the west to Bridlington in the east. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the east bit. It's lovely and flat, and it's just a lovely little ride to do in the spring and summer. So that's the ride that I'm going to do, and I only get on near York and ride out to Brid, so it's lovely. So stop in Driffield, tend to stop in Driffield, which is a beautiful little market town, completely unspoilt really, by the river. There's this little place to stop, Frankie's Cafe, where obviously it's a biker cafe, like a proper bikers. Big blokes on leather stuff, but also cyclists, and always stop there for something to eat. And it's a pretty gentle cycle ride, probably 30 to 40 miles all the way to Brid. And again, it's a Sustrans. Out in the Wolds, there are quite a lot of landmarks. On the left, you've got all sorts of memorials about RAF crew who've died coming back in the Second World War. Just the whole of the landscape is like this. It's kind of flat, very isolated, remote, very countrified, lots of poppies and rapeseed and meadows and stuff like that. Beautiful landscape. When you get to Bridlington, always have fish and chips. So Bridlington itself is quite interesting. It's a town with lots of different sides to it. There is a marina, and it has got one of the best places, I think, to put boats in at along the east coast. So there is the marina, and then there's all different parts of town. So you know, it takes quite a while to discover. I'm only sort of getting to find out what it's like over the years. Good sort of fish and chips, dandelion and burdock, Fanta or whatever you fancy. That's always like the whole reason that we do a bike ride to the coast, really, is to eat the decent food. So that's what we do when we get there. My bike at Brid, I cycled there for one night, so I'm obviously obsessed about the bike. Here it's got my dad's pannier on the back, and it's got the tent basically, and not very much else. So that picture's taken at the marina. We camped up near Sewerby Hall, where most people have got massive, great big camper vans, caravans, all sorts of things like that, but I've just got a tiny little tent. So that's lovely. I could go wild camping, but I've never done it. And you don't think that wild camping is legal in England, but it's legal in Scotland. Obviously, there's issues over getting water. Obviously, you wouldn't ever have to leave any waste with you, and if you did, you'd have to put it in a container and dispose of it properly. So I don't do wild camping as such. Obviously, there's lots of issues around wild camping now that we've got COVID. People have started to do it a bit more, but really not very good if you don't take your waste home. So I think, you know, people got to learn a lot more about how to do it properly. So I'm gonna just stop for there because I've got a little bit more for later. When I get to Bridlington, what I like to do is just have a little mooch around, and one of the places that I've been a couple of times is Flamborough Head. Flamborough Head's just north of Brid, and
Ruth,
hello. Can you hear me now? Yeah, I think you muted me by mistake, and you got me back now. Yeah.
Yeah, we can hear you.
So at Flamborough Head, probably a lot of you have been up here. Oh, I can't get to my next slide. I don't know why. I want to get to my next slide. Here it is. There's Bempton Cliffs RSPB, and last year I went up there. It was quite poignant, really, because my auntie had died the year before, and she said she died quite suddenly. She had said that she wanted to go to see the puffins here before she died, and she didn't get to do it. So I'm quite sad about that. But went up there in May, and we'll look for all the birds. Puffins are a lot smaller than other seabirds. My understanding is, you know, a lot smaller than guillemots and other things like that. So there's a little guide. I think this time of the year that we went, they were grey as well. The babies were grey balls of feathers. So there's thousands of seabirds at Bempton Cliffs. It's a really lovely place. There's RSPB people on hand to help you identify what's going on. And there's a cliff top walk which is accessible from the car park. A few sandy trails. I think you could probably get along there quite easily. And then you've got these massive great drops and thousands of seabirds. It's quite overwhelming really to how many birds you're surrounded by. So Bempton Cliffs are a really nice trip from Bridlington and Flamborough Head. So obviously you need your binoculars. I think that I did see some baby puffins nesting in the crevices here. They were little grey fluffy things. I looked for a long, long time. Just a really lovely place to go. I mean, the point about going on a little trip is discovering things and taking your time. And I like to mix the cycling with that whenever I can. So it's a nice place to stop. So that's the Flamborough ride. That's sort of some of the highlights really. From east of York out to Bridlington up to Flamborough. Next ride I've got is Morecambe Bay. So on the other side of the country, on the west, this is a ride that I did last week. I stayed in Arnside, which is just the right hand side of your picture. On the red line, and then you go all the way up the estuary to Levens Hall, which is a National Trust property with gardens, and then I went across the salt marshes down to Grange over Sands, up the hill to Cartmel, where there's Cartmel Priory and sort of Cartmel fudge and all sorts of lovely food you can eat, and then up to just the tip of near Windermere Lakeside kind of way, and back down to Ulverston. So another nice ride you can do, mix of flat and uphill with this one. Came back on the train, so the picture of me with my friend is us on the train, because obviously you can go on the train, but they insist that you wear a face covering, as with everywhere else at the moment. So it was a good train, a bit better than services locally. Got special racks for bikes, so that was great. Really enjoyed that. This is just some pictures from the ride. You can see here how easy it is, how flat it is. It's traffic free, so if you want to take your bike up there, there are bits that you can do quite easily, traffic free, around Arnside and Grange. Up in Lancashire, just South Lakeland. It's an area of outstanding natural beauty, which is just outside the Lake District, and I spent quite a lot of time there. So the next picture here, we've got Cartmel Priory. I didn't go in the Priory this time, didn't make the time for that because I had to climb a big hill, and that was a priority. I think from the top of that hill at Bigland Fell on the right, that you can just about see the proper mountains of the Lake District. That was as close as we got to the Lake District proper on this ride. So we finished our ride at Ulverston. I think we'd probably gone about 40 miles. So with a bit of climbing up Cartmel, that was enough for us for the day. Getting a bike on a train is quite an interesting experience. Sometimes there are lifts and you can get your bike up and down, you don't have to carry it up the stairs, and other times you have to bump it down an underpass and up the other side. So, you know, if you aren't as strong, and I'm not strong, it's quite good to find out in advance what it's going to be like getting your bike on the train. Sometimes you might have to wait for the next train because there's only a certain number of places per train. So even though you don't pay more for the bike or book the bike on, sometimes you have to allow more time. This happens to me in France. So to wait to get the next train because it was completely full of bikes, and it's okay, they don't mind you changing your ticket, and they'll understand that. But you know, it's a little bit of a faff, but obviously it's worth it to get to these beautiful places, and you don't have to drive your car, so it's completely green. So quite lovely. So any questions or information about getting bikes on trains, I'd be happy to talk about that and have a chat about that if anyone wants to know anything, or travelling now that in the UK with COVID restrictions. I'm happy to chat about that if anybody wants to chat about that later. So that's just some photographs from the Morecambe Bay ride. Morecambe Bay ride goes all the way from Morecambe itself to Barrow, and it's the train line at Barrow as well, so it's quite easy to get to. Other routes that I've done in that sort of area, you can do the coast to coast, it's called the Sea to Sea, which runs all the way from Whitehaven, Workington to Tynemouth. That's a 3 or 4 day route across the country. A lot of people probably walk that. The skinny part of the country, but it's very, very hilly. So that's a really good ride. If you don't want to do it on your own, you can do it with a group. There are lots of companies that help you along the way. So I was going to talk a little bit about e-bikes today, and I'm not sure that Susan would approve. But I quite like e-bikes, and I've been trying them out recently. I don't know if anybody else has been trying out the e-bikes. I did it to start getting into cycling. I think I did have the coronavirus right at the beginning, so March, April, and I felt a bit rough for a couple of weeks, quite a long time afterwards. And then I hadn't been on my bike as usual, hadn't been over to the East Coast as I would usually do, and I lost my confidence a bit. And a friend of mine, he had the COVID quite bad, so we got on electric bikes at Hassop, which is on the Monsell Trail. And we borrowed these e-bikes, 24 quid for 3 hours and 27 quid for the whole day. So it's worth it getting them for the whole day. I really like them, and I'm really like saving up for one. I know that Susan probably thinks I'm too young, but they've got some advantages. You can go further for longer. If you live in a really hilly part of the country like me, because I live on the borders of Sheffield and Derbyshire, you can get places with and then enjoy the day without having to just find the getting there the exhausting part. And they're just a really good fun. They are still hard work. The more you push, the more they register your cadence, and they help you. They only assist you therefore when you're going uphill. So when you're going on a flat, they don't need to assist you at all. And now they are completely quiet. So I really love this bike that I borrowed. It was a Rally Motus, I think. Recommend trying it. Obviously, it's a heavy bike, but as long as you've got some battery life left, then you're okay. So e-bikes, anybody and any questions about e-bikes? Anybody got an e-bike? That would be really good to talk to people about that. So
yeah, there's somebody who just commented, Sarah, she said, I'm still recovering from getting COVID back in March and missing my bike terribly. I may have to consider e-help.
Ah, yeah. Obviously, that's great. They're a good investment. I think it does take a while to recover, but then I think gradually you probably get back to, you get back over time to feeling like yourself again. It just takes a few weeks, doesn't it? But I think for the future, they're a great thing. And I've written here about in Europe, I don't think in Europe people are snobby about them. I think in Europe people accept that it's okay to have an e-bike, and a bike's to get you around. It's a good way of transport. transporting you from A to B, and there's nothing wrong with them. I know that there's a lady called Helen Moat. Have you heard of Helen Moat? She's written this, The Time for Birds. I don't know if you can see me.
A Time of Birds.
Yeah, she did a trip in Europe, and A Time for Birds, and she went on an old shopper on her bike all the way from Amsterdam to Istanbul.
Oh, gosh.
She's just an ordinary lady in her 50s on a bike, and she's determined to do it. And so she took her old bike, a bike which is a bit like my bike, just a sort of heavy hybrid, sit up and beg, shopper type, not a sort of like lightweight, special, expensive touring bike. And she on that, and she cycled all the way there. But she said when she met people in the Netherlands and in Germany and all the way across, everybody's sort of like confused, like, why have you not got an electric bike? And why are you riding all this way on a sort of rather shabby bike? But it doesn't really matter. It's not the speed. And for her, it's not the speed, it's the journey. So it doesn't matter what kind of bike you ride. And if you need assistance, that doesn't matter either. So why not do it? If it gives you a little adventure, I think it's worthwhile. So that's my view on cycling. It's about getting around. It's not about sport and improving performance. It's about looking around. So next thing.
Okay.
Yeah, so anyone got any more questions about electric bikes? We'll take that later. As I said, this friend of mine, he had slowly recovered, and we did a few rides on the electric bikes, and I think it did help his confidence. If you're going, I talked earlier about mileage. If you're sort of naturally like me, don't go very far very often, and suddenly go 20 or 30 miles, that's okay. Go up to 50 miles, that's about okay. And then you're going on a tour for a few days, maybe the electric bike might help you to keep up or get less sore or that kind of thing, because there's a kind of a balance where you're pushing yourself and a balance where you're allowing your body to recover and your bottom to recover from sitting on the bike. So that's electric bikes. I love them. I'm thinking of getting one at some point. I only got the one bike at the moment, which is the hybrid. So it's part of my book. I just scrambled in the break because I realised I spoke quite quickly in the first half. But part of my book, the thinking with these ladies that I've been talking with over Zoom over the last few weeks about cycling and stuff, life, and come up with some sort of just things that I've got from their stories, lessons that I've learned from their stories. And one of the things I learned was you don't get older, you get wiser. And the reason for that is that I've learned so much from all these other ladies, and they just know so much about life and how to cycle and how to travel, and I think it's quite a nice thing, and it definitely applies to cycle touring. You learn a lot very quickly, and that's one of the things that I like about it. Second thing was everybody starts on a crappy bike, and I don't think it matters what kind of bike you're on. You do need to have your tyres pumped up and everything like that, but the idea that it's all about the bikes, not kind of the ethos that we have at Breeze, or that a lot of people who use the bike for cycling and transport have. I think maybe if you go to the countries again and they're on the bikes a lot of the time, that's kind of okay to ride a heavy city bike or whatever it is. Next thing was about nutrition. Susan is an expert in all this, but it's been quite funny along the way where people don't eat. If you go away with some ladies and they don't eat, you find that you don't work very well. So you've got to eat and drink when you're on the bike. I'm not sure how this new health initiative with promoting cycling will go, because really, if you cycle, you can't eat whatever you like. You've got to be careful and put that first. Riding in circles is okay. A lot of ladies breeze, we all start in circles and get longer and longer in straight lines, which is lovely. Strongest leaders lead from the back. This is really a thank you to Indigo, Kelly Forrest, who helped me get on the bike, and all the ladies who help other women get on the bikes. You know, leading from the back's a really nice thing to get people involved, and something that I hope that I do when I go on a bike ride, or when I'm, I don't know, doing what I do, teaching or whatever. Commuting bikes, brilliant. Mariam in Leicester, and Susan and loads of other people are really trying to improve stuff like that. Screaming at goats is better than lying on the beach. One of the ladies in the book is a lady who used to live in Leicestershire, I think, or Northamptonshire. She's moved to Australia. She's called Leanne. She's a big personality. She got into biking over the years, mostly starting when she was 40. Her husband bought her a holiday, cycling in Greece on a mountain bike. So she wasn't sure at first if going on a mountain bike holiday was really her holiday, or whether it was you know, something that he wanted to do. But she did really enjoy it, and you know, that kind of adventure can be kind of better than just lying on the beach sometimes, I think. Number 8, if something happens, shit happens, you'll deal with it. Obviously, accidents will happen when you're on the bike. Sorry, my friend's son's just arrived at the front door. Robert! Can you get the door? Thank you. Yeah, a week's worth of cycling is a year's worth of adventure. That's something that really resonates for me. And cycling in a group keeps you going. For a lot of us, we go with other ladies because we enjoy it. So that's really a lovely thing to do, and trying to share the journey. The next thing, I thought, well, strangers are kind of cyclists because they get bonkers. A lot of times, Susan talked about this a lot in her talk, I know, when she did her big world tour. It's kind of nice when you're on 2 feet or you're travelling slowly, when people kind of stop and chat to you. And I think, again, that's one of the things about travelling to quieter places where people have got time for you. It's a really nice thing to do. Hills can bring out stronger emotions. This is just some of the ladies attacking hills. It's just a kind of metaphor for life, really, isn't it? Everything's okay when you take life at 7 to 15 miles an hour. I tend to average about 9 miles an hour when I'm touring, because that's including food stops. So could go even slower. So 50-mile day is probably best part of 5 or 6 hours. Making it easier for yourself, again, like there are loads of things I've learned from women and people who are more experienced than me about how to ride. There's so much more to learn, and I'm just starting really on that. So any ideas to help my little list, or any little help advice from you experienced travellers who with wise and experience, that would be great to find out. So as well as going with the ladies, I've started taking my children. So this is my daughter in Bordeaux. Last year we had a 2-week adventure in Bordeaux, and I've ridden quite a lot around Bordeaux. I've ridden with Susan and Indigo, Kelly Forrest, from one coast to the other in France, which goes from Bordeaux to Carcassonne, or all the way to Narbonne. So you're going from the South Atlantic to the Mediterranean coast, and that's us in Bordeaux. Next one, I just sort of started to gather a list for myself of things I've already done and things that I'd like to do. So I've done the Coast and Castle South and the Wolds Way and Morecambe Bay, coast to coast, and Transpennine Trail East. So all of those are on my blog if you want to look at Slow Cycle. Stuff I haven't done yet, but I've got all the maps for. Oban to Inverness, the Caledonian Canal that goes across. Oban to Inverness, love to do that route. Edinburgh to Aberdeen, I know there was a chap talking just earlier about going up the east coast from Edinburgh. The route, the Sustrans route, does actually travel all the way up and around Scotland. And another one is the Way of the Roses. So that's another route that I would like to explore. So that's cycle rides that I've done. Next things I want to talk about is food. Now, you might think I'm a bit obsessed with food because it's really a pleasure. Going back to the Coast and Castles, I think you can have Cresta kippers, and Alnwick. You can go buy kippers from a smokehouse. Ice cream, like local ice cream. All sorts of like local specialities. Scotland also the same. In France is like you're a spoiled choice. So in France we tend to stop in the morning for food at a patisserie and have a croissant or two. Nothing quite as creamy or delicious as this. Sometimes if you've gone a long way, and stop along the way at Tabacs for coffee. I think nice thing about France is that you go to the quiet places again, you will find people to talk to. I don't know if it's true, but I found people in the south of France much more friendly than I had when I was a kid in the north in Brittany. And I don't know if it's maybe because they get fewer visitors. But I really liked the food in the south of France and chatting to people there. So I think it might be that people are more friendly. Tabacs is where the old guys go to have their coffee in the morning, and if you walk in and you're a stranger, it's a bit like being in the Wild West. Being at a bar in the Wild West. People might ask you questions or say something nice to you or whatever. It's always an experience, so that's quite a nice thing to do. In France, they like to sort of specialise in whatever they do. So they make coffee, or they serve drinks and beer, or they do roast chicken, or they do bread. And each place tends to do one thing and do it really well. So we found that if you are eating in France, they like you to sit down. If you stand up in the street with the food, someone will come up to you and say, "No, this is not the French way. You can't do this. This is not how you enjoy food." So they'll let you sit down and order a drink and maybe get your sandwiches out. This place here, we arrived. There's Susan smiling again. Hello, Susan. We arrived. I think we had a coffee probably and a soft drink. And then they said we could bring our food in. So someone went to get a roast chicken, and somebody went to get some bread, and then somebody went to get some special desserts, and then somebody went to get some chips. Somebody had some pizza. Everybody shared everything. And then we stayed and we had more and more drinks, and we just enjoyed sitting down to refuel. So that's another thing that I sort of enjoy about going on holidays, to experience different things and get different things from different places where they're really passionate about what they're giving you. Next slide. Oh yeah, come back to the beginning now. So just finished now, Patricia. So really I will just hand it over to you. I don't know how we are for time. I know.
We're okay. We can look at the chat. Somebody, Frank, has made the comment about, to go back to the electric bike thing, electric car battery is 40 kilowatts or more.
Yes.
An e-bike is more like 0.4 kilowatts. So you can make batteries for 100 bikes or one car for the same amount of lithium. Any experts, please check my figures. So, yeah, it's interesting that, I don't know, I mean, for example, in Leicester, where a lot of us are, they're really trying to promote the bikes, but I've not seen any particular promotion of e-bikes. I think you said, Ruth, didn't you, that you can hire them?
Yeah.
Before you kind of make an outlay in buying one, you can actually hire them to have a go. So, is there anywhere? Are you in Leicester, Ruth?
I'm in Derbyshire.
Derbyshire.
But I do hire them, and I've done a calculation. Now they cost about £2,000 to £3,000 for a decent e-bike, and I calculated that's roughly about 100 days of hiring, and if I hire one from Hassop, I can drive to Hassop. It's not far, so it's a fairly close drive, but then I can go further into the Peak District. I can have a whole day's adventure. I can go back. I don't have to load it onto my car. I don't have to maintain it. I don't have to look after the battery or do anything. I think it's quite a nice thing to do for a day. If you are going to ride it regularly, and I guess if cost is an issue, you might want to work out how you see it as an investment, because it's cheaper than a car, isn't it?